7 days in the United Kingdom sounds like enough time to see Britain. It isn't, and the sooner you make peace with that, the better the trip gets. The UK is 4 nations, and the version most first-time visitors experience is 1 city in one of them. This itinerary makes a different argument. 3 days in London, 2 in Edinburgh, and 2 based in the Scottish Highlands, all connected by train. No domestic flights, no border crossings, no airports after you land. It doesn't try to show you Britain. It shows you 2 of its most extraordinary cities and the landscape that makes Scotland genuinely unlike anywhere else in Europe, which is, for a first trip, a significantly more honest and more rewarding proposition than a sprint through 4 countries that ends with a feeling of having touched everything and understood nothing. Here is how the week works. London gets 3 days, which is the minimum for a city this dense and the right amount for a first visit that doesn't want to spend the whole trip there. The temptation on day 1 is to attack the landmark list immediately: Buckingham Palace, the Tower, Westminster. And this temptation should be partially resisted, not because those things aren't worth seeing, but because hitting all of them on the first day produces a kind of landmark fatigue that makes everything blend into the same category of impressive and slightly overwhelming. Day 1 is better spent orienting. Arrive. Drop your bag somewhere in central London or Southwark, and spend the afternoon walking the South Bank from London Bridge to the Tate Modern. This walk costs nothing, takes about 90 minutes at a slow pace, delivers the Thames, the city skyline, Shakespeare's Globe, the Millennium Bridge, and arrives at one of the great modern art museums in the world, which is also free to enter. It's the right scale for a first afternoon, enough to feel like London has started without trying to contain the whole thing in one hit. Day 2 is for the history, and the history in London is dense enough that 2 sites done properly beat 6 sites done quickly. The British Museum in the morning. Give it 3 hours, not 90 minutes, because the collections run from the Rosetta Stone and the Elgin marbles to the Sutton Hoo helmet and the Lewis chessmen, and the depth of what's there only becomes apparent once you stop moving from room to room and actually slow down inside one. Then walk east to the City of London, the square mile of the ancient Roman and medieval city within the modern one, where the streets still follow their original medieval layout, and where the monument to the Great Fire of 1666 and the Tower of London sit within walking distance. The Tower is genuinely worth the entry fee, not for the crown jewels alone, which are real and remarkable, but for the accumulated 900-year history of the building itself, which has been a royal palace, a prison, an armory, and a place of execution, and which carries that weight in a way that the tourist brochure undersells. Afternoon tea somewhere in the area, not in a hotel designed specifically for tourists doing afternoon tea, but in a cafe that serves it because it's a normal part of the day, which in London it still is. Day 3 is London off the tourist circuit, which is where the city starts to become itself rather than a backdrop. Start in Bermondsey on the south side of the river. The Bermondsey Market, the Borough Market for lunch, the Shard if you want a view from the top. Then cross London Bridge into the city and walk north through the financial district past Wren's churches, the small medieval lanes that survived both the Great Fire and the Blitz, and into Clerkenwell, which is one of the most historically dense neighborhoods in the city and one of the least visited by first-time tourists. End the afternoon in Shoreditch, which is the East London district that has absorbed the most creative energy in the city over the last 2 decades, and which is the place most likely to show you a version of London that wasn't there the last time anyone made a film about the city. Dinner somewhere in Brick Lane or the surrounding streets, where the depth of London's South Asian community is visible in the restaurants and the storefronts in a way that reminds you this is one of the most genuinely international cities on earth rather than the heritage destination the guidebooks can make it feel like. Day 4 is the train to Edinburgh, which is one of the great rail journeys in Britain and should be treated as part of the experience rather than something to endure. The East Coast Main Line from London King's Cross to Edinburgh Waverley takes approximately 4.5 hours, and for much of the journey runs directly along the North Sea coast through Northumberland and then into the Scottish borders, with the sea on the right and the landscape gradually shifting from the flat English lowlands to something hillier, greener, and more rugged. Take a morning train to arrive in Edinburgh by early afternoon, because Edinburgh on a first afternoon rewards walking rather than planning. Arrive at Waverley Station, which sits in the valley between the old town above it and the new town below it, in one of the more dramatic urban railway arrivals in Europe, the castle visible on the rock above the moment you come out of the exit, the the medieval skyline of the Royal Mile laid out against the sky. Walk up to the old town immediately, not to see anything specific, but to understand the city's shape. The castle at one end of the Royal Mile, the palace of Holyrood House at the other, and a kilometer of medieval closes and winds branching off the spine of the street in both directions. This first walk is not a tour. It's an orientation, and it's the best way to spend the rest of the afternoon before dinner somewhere in Grassmarket, the square at the foot of the Castle Rock that has been a market, a place of public execution, and now a neighborhood of pubs and restaurants that still feels like it belongs to the city rather than to a tourism company. Day 5 is Edinburgh Properly, with the understanding that properly means two things it often doesn't get: the old town slowly and the new town at all. The morning is for the castle. Go early, before 10, because the castle sits on top of an extinct volcano and the view from the battlements over the city and out toward the Firth of Forth is at its best in the morning light, and because the crowds, which build steadily through the day, are thinnest at opening. The castle contains Scotland's crown jewels, which are genuinely ancient and genuinely moving in a way that the English equivalents, more famous but significantly younger, are not. The honours of Scotland, the sceptre, the sword, and the crown, have been in continuous Scottish use since the 15th century and survived several attempts at confiscation, including being hidden under a church floor during Cromwell's occupation, which gives them a particular weight that no amount of glass display case can quite diminish. Spend 2 hours here, not 45 minutes. The afternoon is for the new town, which most tourists to Edinburgh either walk through without really seeing or skip entirely in favor of more old town time. This is a mistake specific to Edinburgh and worth correcting. The new town, laid out from the 1760s as an expansion of the city on the other side of the valley from the medieval core, is one of the most architecturally coherent Georgian planned cities in Europe, and walking its streets, Charlotte Square, Harriet Row, the Circus, is an experience of a different kind of beauty from the medieval drama across the bridge. The Scottish National Portrait Gallery, free to enter, sits in a Gothic revival building in the new town and contains the faces of 500 years of Scottish history in a way that suddenly makes the old town make a great deal more sense. Dinner in Leith, the port district north of the city that has become Edinburgh's best-eating neighborhood over the last decade, with a density of serious restaurants along the waterfront that the tourist center doesn't match. Day 6 is the move to the Highlands, and it's also one of the most scenic rail journeys in the world. The train from Edinburgh to Inverness, the main city of the Highland region, takes roughly 2.5 to 3 hours and crosses some of the most dramatic landscape in Britain: Perthshire's river valleys, the Cairngorms Plateau visible from the windows, the Pass of Drumafter, the highest mainline railway summit in Britain, and then the descent into the Highland capital. Take an early morning train to arrive with a full day ahead, pick up a rental car in Inverness, which is the point at which the Highlands becomes accessible in a way that public transport alone cannot deliver, and spend the afternoon driving south along the eastern shore of Loch Ness. Loch Ness is real and beautiful regardless of its mythological passenger, 23 miles long, almost a kilometer wide, and deep enough to contain the entirety of the world's fresh water several times over. The B852 road along the eastern shore is quieter than the main road on the western side and delivers the Loch without the tourist infrastructure concentrated around the visitor centers at Drumnadrochit. Urquhart Castle, a roofless ruin on a headland jutting into the Loch, is worth the stop, not primarily for any monster spotting promise, but because the castle itself has a history running from Pictish settlement through medieval fortification to deliberate demolition in the 17th century to prevent Jacobite occupation. And it commands a view of the Loch that explains immediately why someone built something here in the first place. Overnight in or near Inverness, which is a pleasant, manageable Scottish city with good food options and serves perfectly as a base for the day that follows. Day 7 is the Highlands in full, and it should be driven rather than planned, because the landscape rewards improvisation more than scheduling. Drive west from Inverness toward the Black Isle, and then turn south through the Great Glen, the fault line that cuts diagonally across Scotland from Inverness to Fort William, through which Loch Ness and Loch Lochy and Loch Linhee sit in a chain. This route, known as the A82, is one of the most scenic roads in Scotland and delivers the scale of the Highlands in a way that no photograph prepares you for. The glens are not valleys. They're glacially carved troughs whose walls rise steeply on both sides, and the light on the hillsides changes every few minutes as cloud and sun move over the moorland in a sky that is almost always doing something worth watching. Stop at Glen Coe, which is an hour south of Inverness, and which is the emotional and visual peak of this day. Glen Coe is both the most dramatic mountain landscape in Britain. Three massive peaks, the Three Sisters, ranged above a valley floor that catches weather from every direction simultaneously, and the site of the 1692 massacre in which soldiers quartered with the MacDonald clan killed their hosts on government orders, an event that remains a specific and painful memory in Scottish historical consciousness. The National Trust car park at the foot of the glen is the starting point for several walks of varying difficulty. Even the short walk along the valley floor, which requires no particular fitness or equipment, delivers a sense of scale and atmosphere that is specific to this place and doesn't exist anywhere else in Britain. Continue south through Glencoe village and along the shore of Loch, then turn east back toward Edinburgh through the Rannoch Moor, one of the last true wildernesses in the British Isles, a vast peatland plateau with almost no human habitation and a quality of emptiness that is striking precisely because it exists within a country as densely populated as the UK. The road across it, the A82, is the only one, and there are few places in Europe where you can drive for that long and see that little evidence of human settlement. Return to Edinburgh in the early evening, return the hire car, and take the night train or the evening East Coast service back to London if the flight home is the next morning, or stay a final night in Edinburgh, which is never a hardship. 7 days done this way doesn't show you the whole of the UK, and it's not trying to. It shows you London with enough depth to move past the landmark layer into the actual city. Edinburgh as a separate capital with its own identity and its own architectural logic, and a piece of the Scottish Highlands significant enough to understand why the landscape there produces a specific feeling in people that the rest of Britain, beautiful as much of it is, simply doesn't. Three very different experiences of the same political entity, connected by train, requiring no domestic flights, and honest about the fact that the UK is not one country, in any sense that matters to the traveller paying close attention. Come back for Wales. Come back for Northern Ireland. Come back for the English countryside, and the northern cities and the Outer Hebrides. A week is a beginning, not a completion, and the only real mistake is treating it as the latter. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.